Marhaba. Welcome. Hello. My name is Paul Hughes. I'm an Irishman. I'm married to a Lebanese woman. It is fantastic to be in this part of the world again. Tonight, I'm going to tell a few stories about design. We're here now in the first design week of Amman, and it's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about design. And what is design? How can we learn from it? And let's tell some stories. How excited are you?
Very.
Success is not a point. Success is a path. Success is not a point, success is a path. And along that path, there are different situations that we can learn from. I think that design is a great way of traveling along that path. There's a story that I tell regularly. I want to tell it again today. And it's a story about an island community in the South Pacific Islands. And that island community comes together once every 10 years. And they come together to build a boat. So everybody in the community comes together. The men have a task, the women have a task, the children have a task. Everybody in the community has a task. And the oldest person in the community, whether it's a man or a woman, they have a special task. They have to sit in the center of the village. They have to build a fire in the center of the village. And they have to keep that fire burning for the whole length of the project. 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And their job is to remember why they're building the boat. If people are tired after working together, they come back and they sit around the fire and remember why they're building the boat. If people have sent too many emails that day, they come back and they sit by the fire to remember why they're building the boat. At the heart of every great project is a fire that burns brightly. What is your fire? What is the fire of this design week? And what is the fire that then we can carry forward? So let's talk a little bit more about design. One of the things that I spoke about earlier was to explain my vision of design. This is where we are now. And this here is the past. And this is the future. What I find very interesting is that it is possible for us to analyze the past. However, we cannot analyze the future. It is not possible for us to analyze the future. There's nothing there. So we could create scenarios. We could predict. We could create a model. Ultimately, what we need to do, I believe, is we need to design. We need to design the future. So I believe the big job of design is creating future possibilities. Let's explore a little bit more over what design can do. So, Design either creates something new, or it takes something that exists. Now, for those of you who have ever worked with clients, you'll know that this is kind of what you get, right? And sometimes this, right? Ultimately, the second thing that design does is improves. There are only two things that design does. It creates something new, or it takes something that exists and improve it. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, in our society today, there's a lot of things we need to improve. And perhaps more importantly, there's a lot of new things we need to create. So, what happens when we have this plus this? Obviously, we get this. So, this is the new mathematics. The new mathematics says, is it this one? Shall I stop this? The new mathematics says, you take this, you add it to this, you get this. This is design. Now, what is that? Imagine you are a company. Imagine you are a profession. And you could fly your kite in the sky, saying, this is who I am. You could be a world-class bank flying your kite in the sky, saying, this is who we are. However, if you understand design, that's what you do. You completely distinguish yourself from everybody else. So one of the unique things that design does is offers you your unique story. And tomorrow I'm going to be giving another workshop, and I'm going to be speaking a little bit more about stories and storytelling in design. Now, let's get into the heart of things. Imagine we have a shark. As you can clearly see, this is a shark. Now, in front of the shark, we have a fish. It's a very cute fish. And the fish's name is Nemo. And the shark's name is Bruce. Now, Nemo and Bruce were friends. However, suddenly everything changed in the world. And Bruce is about to eat Nemo. Oh no, not good. Draw something that saves Nemo. Quickly, sir. Quickly. Quickly. Excellent. Well done.
It's a fish boat.
This is a fishing boat, and we catch Nemo and we keep him safe, I presume. Yes, sir. Please draw something that saves Nemo. Quickly, quickly, quickly. Excellent. Well done, sir. Please draw something that saves Nemo. Quickly, quickly. Excellent. Right. We all agree? No, what would you do?
A net.
A net where?
Shark.
A net around the shark. What would you do?
Same.
A net around the shark. What would you do? Kill the shark. What would you do, sir?
I'll give Nemo a sword.
Give Nemo a sword. What would you do, sir?
Add another fish to the equation.
Add another fish. Right?
But it's the same result.
Same result, maybe?
No, but you know.
Make it vegetarian.
Another solution is you could put something in between, for example. This story represents the 4 ways of solving any problem. There are 4 ways of solving any problem. The first way of solving a problem is get rid of the problem. Right? Now, there are certain countries in the world that thinks that's their foreign policy. Right? If you're the bigger fish, if you've got the bigger gun, if you've got the bigger stick, then they would use that. Now, that's a very effective strategy. However, what happens if you can't get rid of the problem? Well, what you could do is the second way of solving any problem is you could put something in between that stops it from happening. There's a whole industry here that's called law. Right? We have a legal agreement. There's certain things I can do and certain things that you can do. The third way of solving any problem is protect what's important. And in nature, there's camouflage. There's many different ways that they protect what's important. The fourth way, however, the fourth way of solving any problem is this little fish here. What does he represent?
Diversion.
Sorry?
Diversion.
A diversion? The magic word, ladies and gentlemen, is alternatives. The fourth way of solving any problem is to create alternatives. Have you heard of the term thinking outside the box? Right? Well, I'm drawing a box here. Option number 1, 2, and 3 is in the box. In the box thinking is you take what exists and you move it around slightly. Out of the box thinking is to generate alternatives. The key goal of design is to generate alternatives. What is design for? To create alternatives. Now, there's only two alternatives we're talking about. You either create something new, alternative, or you improve what exists as an alternative. The focus of design is to create alternatives. Now, let's talk about big picture stuff. How to change the world in 3 easy steps. Step number 1, change your thinking. Step number 2, that will change your actions. Step number 3, that will change the world. Easy. 3 degrees of change. Of course, the message here is that change doesn't happen out there, change happens in here. So how can we help with that level of change? So what I want to offer you is kind of insight into how people function with design, what it can mean. This here is a group of ants. What's ant in Arabic?
Namli.
A nambe?
Namli.
Nemle.
Yes.
Nemle. Right? Lots of nemles. What's the plural?
Nemel.
Nemel. Right, so there's a lot of nemel, right? Is that right?
Yeah, that's
All right.
perfect.
Nemel. Right, so there's a group of nemel. Right? And they go out on a path to look for food. And what happens is one of them finds some food. And they find an apple, and they follow their track back, and then they tell all of the other nemel where the food is, and they go on this path here. And they collect the food, and they bring it back, and so on, right? However, there are a few ants that are not quite right. Right? They're just not normal. You know, they're a bit weird. And they wander off the path. and find nothing. Few more of them wander off the path further up and find nothing. And one of them wanders off the path, off the screen, comes back and finds the picnic basket where the apple came from. We have established systems to get value. They are very important. And it's very important that we find out how to access them better. And we need to find new systems, new ways of accessing. This is what design can do. We are moving from things to the flow of things. This is a conversation that's taking place across a number of the presentations and a number of the exhibits. How does a thing become a verb? And we had a lovely conversation earlier about a verb. What's a verb in Arabic? Fa'il. 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 Right? So a verb, it's moving. The world we're now in, and the world we're certainly moving into, is a world where there is a dynamic. Things are becoming verbs. Right? They're moving.
Like action.
Like what?
Action.
Action. Right? So technology is helping a lot with this. And things, as they say, things are now becoming smart. I think it's an unusual term because that suggests before then they were dumb, which I think is quite insulting to things. I am a verb. I am a fettle. So how would you say that in Arabic? I am a fettle. Ana. Ana fettle. Did I just curse?
No, just say فاعل is the person
فاعل.
who does the فعل.
So how do you say I am a verb?
أنا فعل.
Ana fehel. Ana fehel. This is what every object is shouting out. Every object is shouting, I am alive. I am a verb. They are longing to be alive. They are longing to move. Now, of course, in my diagram here, I'm suggesting that there's something created when things are connected, right? So, okay. I want to talk about the 3 levels of design. Would you be able to put that water on this or just keep it down because it looks like it could flow? Thank you. So I want to talk about the 3 levels of design. There are 3 levels in which design operates. The first level in which design operates is the level of components. Components. Components are things. This is a thing. A thing. The first level of design is the level of components. The second level of design is the level of connections, when you connect those things. The third level of design is context. That is the connections of connections. Let's look at this as an example. If we were in a hospital, we would have a thermometer. This is a thermometer. What's a thermometer in Arabic?
Thermometer.
Thermometer, right? You have a thermometer. The first level of design is it's a thing. Now that needs to have a good form plus function. Now, for those of you who are familiar with design, you might have heard of that before. Form and function. It's got to function well, and it's got to have an aesthetic form. That, however, ladies and gentlemen, is only the first level of design. The second level of design is when you're in a hospital, you have your thermometer, you connect it to a computer, which is connected to a beeper on the nurse's uniform. So if the person's temperature goes up, she gets a beep, and she comes back and looks at the temperature. You have connected the thing. That is the second level of design. You connect things. Most design, however, stops at the first level. Design is longing for the second level. I am a verb. أنا فعل. I am a verb. That's what it's saying. Listen.
أنا فاعل.
The third level of design is where you have a hospital, and the hospital is being redesigned as a holistic system. So the third level of design is where you design a system. The bigger picture, everything is connected to everything. So, another example. Apple, for example, will create a telephone. It's a thing. Then they connect that thing, not only through the telephone network, but through, for example, iTunes. You might be familiar with this. Then after iTunes, they create a whole ecology of personal music. You feel that? So what they've done with a thing is they've made it a verb. 3 levels of design. The best design is sensitive to all 3. Right? It's that process. So, let's move it down. Thanks. So, one of the things that we speak about in design, one of the things we talk about in society, is the need to collaborate. Why collaborate? Why do we need to collaborate? If anybody ever asks you, why do we need to collaborate, tell them this story. In science, if you have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, something unique is created. Any idea what is created with carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen? Sorry?
Something called CHO. CHO2 something.
Yeah, so well, there's carbon in it. So hydrogen and oxygen create water, but with carbon, something else is created. Any ideas? Life, to a certain extent, yeah. What is created is sugar. Is there sugar in carbon? No. Is it in hydrogen?
No.
Is it in oxygen? Where does it come from? Magic. Some people call it science. Magic, ladies and gentlemen. Sugar is the emergent quality. Sugar is what comes from the collaboration. Sugar is not in the individual parts. So, why do we need to collaborate? To create sweet spots. And no matter how sweet you are not the sugar. You are the oxygen. You are one of the elements. And then when you collaborate, a sweet spot emerges. This is why we need to collaborate. Anybody ever ask you why? Say sugar, and then walk away. So, let's go a little bit further. Right. There's a few stories that I love to tell, and one of them is the following story. I'm going to speak more about this tomorrow. This story is a story that comes from America, and it's a story by an architect. And this is the overview of a university campus. And there was an architect in America, and she was asked to design the university campus. So what she did was she designed 3 buildings, right? So this is the overview of the buildings, right? So she designed 3 buildings, and when she designed 3 buildings, people were quite happy. However, they were quite surprised because she didn't put down any path. She planted grass. And what happened after 1 semester? Paths were formed. None of the paths were straight. Some of them were created in unusual locations. None of the paths were straight. So she then, after the paths were created, she then paved the paths. This, ladies and gentlemen, is how we need to design. This is the evidence of collaboration. What I love about this story is that there is a time and place for her to be the expert. She did not ask the people about the structural integrity of the building. She's an expert in that. What she did was she opened her process to allow other people in. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, when we design, this is how we need to design. Can you guys see that point just there?
Yes.
Why is it not closed?
I was going to ask.
Because it's a process, it keeps changing.
Because it is inviting other people in. Great design is incomplete. I'll speak again about this tomorrow. Great design is incomplete. This is one of the paradoxes of what I believe design needs to be. Often we operate with the idea that when we create something, it needs to be finished. It needs to be complete. I believe there's a space to invite other people in.
Like the Sagrada Familia.
Sorry?
Sagrada Familia.
Which is?
It's the church in Barcelona.
Oh yeah, wonderful. So there's examples of where other architects, other processes invite people in. First quality of design, incomplete. Second quality of design. Now, I love this story because usually when I tell this story, I get people staring at me with one of those looks in the faces. Exactly, just like that. One of those looks. Here's the story. The story comes from Japan. And the story takes place in a garden in Japan. And in the center of that garden, there is a large tree. And it was in a monastery where there were Buddhist monks. And a young monk went to the older monk and said, "How can I help?" And the older monk said, "Go and clean up the garden. Make it perfect." So, some leaves fall, and he says, "Now it's perfect." Exactly that look. Ladies and gentlemen, our conceptions of what design is, I want to challenge from three things. I'm giving you two of them so far. One thing is, our assumption is that design needs to be complete, needs to be finished. I don't believe that is the case. This building here is presented as if it's finished, yet this building only becomes alive when we use it. So I would like to keep thinking that this building is alive because we're using it. The second principle that I'm offering here is the fact that when we think about design, I believe that design should be like this. Imperfect. Design should be imperfect. Not perfect, imperfect. Imperfect design makes it human. Have you ever met anybody perfect? And you're not allowed to say your wife? Because mine is perfect, by the way. I'm on camera. But of course, what's perfect about my wife is her imperfections. Not that she have any imperfections. What's perfect about what's perfect about people that you fall in love with is that you can fall in love with them with their humanity, as it were. So, what helps create great design is design that is human. And human design is imperfect. Second quality of design. These are paradoxes. If we go to any design academy, we're going to be told to complete things and make things as perfect as possible. I'm going against that grain at the moment. So let's look at the third thing. The third thing. We have 2D thinking. That's things that are flat. We have 3D thinking. That's things that have a volume. And most of design is 2D or 3D. Where design needs to be is 4D. What's 4D?
Experience.
Sorry?
Experience.
Experience, perhaps?
Senses.
Senses, that's lovely. There's an exhibition in the hangar. Have you guys seen the hangar exhibition? Yeah? Go, and if you haven't gone, go. It's fantastic. And make sure you see everything, including something that's on the mezzanine, which is about smells.
Yes.
How can you design just using smell? It's fantastic, and be careful what you smell. 4D thinking is not 2D, not 3D, but 3D plus time. This is another way of saying things need to move. So when we design, we need to think about how long it's going to live for. If we're in a building, how long is this building designed to live for? Is it 50 years? Is it 100 years? Maybe. And then if it is 100 years, is this building designed to be taken down after 100 years? I guarantee not. Yet architects now are beginning to work with this concept more and more about designing things that have a lifetime. Beautiful. So, the next quality that I want to offer you is when we design, we should design things that are like this, which is impermanent. They don't last. They are not permanent. 3 paradoxes. One paradox, it is incomplete. Second paradox, it is imperfect. Third paradox, it is impermanent. It doesn't last. I do a lot of teaching, and often when I'm teaching this stuff, I have a few students that come up to me afterwards showing me their homework that is incomplete. It's imperfect. And it's impermanent. And they're very cheeky. particularly the imperfect bit. We're going to get back to that. Thank you, sir. So, here we go. This is your personal job description. This is your personal task. Our task is to see things as they are, not as we are. Our personal worldview taints the world. Our personal worldview filters the world. So our task is to find a way of seeing things as they truly are. And one of the things that I'm passionate about is exploring the design process as a way of seeing things in a new light. And I think there's a lot of examples of that within this design week, where we take an object and we see it in a different light. We see it differently. So, I spoke about this today. I want to mention it again, and I find it very important because we speak a lot, not only about the word collaboration, that's a person, by the way. We speak a lot about not only collaboration, we speak also a lot about the word innovation. And I wanted to show you what I call the innovation index. Now, the reason that I call it an innovation index is that if you're speaking to business people and you add the word index to something, they think it's important. This is the innovation index. The innovation index is based about two principles. One principle is that innovation is about ideas. We get that. Innovation is about ideas. The second thing is that innovation is also about ideals, ethics, principles, values. When we look at the world, however, all too often we are spending too much time in that space. Way too much time in that space. Amazing ideas, questionable ideals. I believe, however, when you have a solid foundation of ideals, ethics, and principles, you will then find a way of operating in that space. Innovation is about ideas and ideals. So one of the great things that I've been experiencing at this design week is a constant reminder about what design can do for society. How can design contribute to the betterment of society? How can design help solve some of the issues of society? Very exciting. And that's why it's important for us to recognize this. We are moving from ego systems to ecosystems. Now, you can imagine what an ecosystem is. Now, some of you are operating with people like that. Some of you know people like that, who have their whole world, which is their ecosystem. The reality is, this is limited. An ecosystem is limited. What is liberating is an ecosystem. The ecosystem allows, of course, for sweet spots to be created. Right? So, we're now at the end of our role. This has been a journey of 10 meters. We're now going to re-roll and recap. Ready? Let's go. What we've been talking about is, what is design? Design is something that I feel truly benefits society. It benefits society because it helps us remind ourselves it's not just about ideas, it's about ideals. It's about creating a new future, a new society. It also requires us to see things in a different light. It helps us be self-reflective. Designers are some of the most self-reflective people I know. They're conscious about who they are and what they're doing. and they strive to change. And what's important about them striving to change is that they want to collaborate, which means that they know why this is important. Imagine that sequence, 12, 13, 14. Now watch this. What happened? No, that's 13. No, it's 13.
We recognize it. Yeah, it's perceived as.
Or it's a B. Which one is correct?
Depending how you read it.
Which one of these correct is based on a whole problem in our society? That's a B. No, that's a 13. No, it's a B. That's a 13. The reality is, ladies and gentlemen, that context gives meaning. That is the context, that is correct. Second thing is, the context gives meaning here. That is the context, that is correct. Which one of these contexts is correct?
Depends.
That's the correct context. One of the things that design does is it opens up new contexts. It's incredibly liberating, incredibly valuable to question things. So, 3 qualities of design. One quality of design is that design should be made to end. Design should have a lifetime. Design is not eternal. What we design has a cycle. So think about it in time. Second thing is, think about it in being imperfect. Most of us do that anyway. What I'm saying is embrace the process. Embrace what is impermanent. The third quality is that we need to have it incomplete so that other people are invited in. This, ladies and gentlemen, is such a beautiful, beautiful way of living. Imagine our society run by that, you know? Who are the experts? The people who are using it. Beautiful. Why do we need to collaborate? Why? Because of sweet spots. And I know you're sweet. I know you're really sweet. You're not the sugar. You're the oxygen.
Or maybe the color.
Yeah, exactly. There's 3 levels of design. First level is the thing, the component. Second level is the connection of those things. Third level is the connection of connections. Design needs to operate in all of those levels. This is where society is. The government operates at this level, the context. We need to help the government as designers. And we have to elevate our work beyond the component into the connections, into the context. This is a reminder of Adam Fettel? Fettel. Adam Fettel. Anna Fettel. Anna Fettel. Do you hear it? Do you hear the thing? The thing is saying, I am a verb. I am a verb. What? It is alive. It is longing to move. There's been some examples of this in the Hangar exhibition. There was a presentation earlier today by one of my Dutch colleagues talking about materials moving. It's a very, very mature way to consider how we live and the things around us should live. Now, we are all ants. What was it, an ant?
Nemli.
Nemli.
One ant.
Nemli. Anna Nemli. So we are all ants. All ants. Which type of ant are you?
I'm this one.
Yeah, we all want to be the one that finds the picnic basket. Most of the time we spend out here. Why am I here? Why am I here? Okay, I'll follow the stream. No, I need to holiday. I'll do. Why am I here? And then we come over here. So there's lovely posters that I've seen somewhere, and it says, "You're weird," and then underneath it, it says, "I like you." So there's something about finding opportunities to challenge our current system in a way that embraces the system still. How do you change the world?
Change your thinking.
Change your thinking. Well, change your actions, which will change the world. Mr. Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. It's beautiful. So change is not out there in some political system. It's not out there in some external leader. It's not out there in some other... It's in here that then is operating out there. You see? It's a beautiful responsibility. So what is the ultimate responsibility of design? Ultimate responsibility of design, create alternatives. Create alternatives, alternatives. How many alternatives do we need in our society? 2 functions of design, and they add to make this. 2 functions. We're either improving something or we're either creating something new. There's a lot of things to improve. There's a lot of things we need to create new. And that means that we're operating in a space where we are designing the future. That is what this design week is about. You really thought it was about a design week? No, this is about designing the future. Obviously. Now, quite nicely on my graphic here, it's bleeding together, you know? It's merging into each other, which is lovely. So, I'm told that I'm out of time. Is that right, sir? All right. So, I want to tell a final summary. Before I do that, questions. Or shall we just move on? We'll do questions afterwards. All together. Right. So, I'll conclude on this. I'm here all day tomorrow, by the way. What is design? Why design? Design, in summary, I believe, does the following. It creates components, objects. It connects those components. And it connects those connections into a context. Components, connections, context. They're the 3 things that design does. How do we do those? The first thing that we do is we design something that is incomplete. It's not finished. So other people can come in. Then we design something that is imperfect. I love that as a design briefing. Design something imperfect. Okay. Embrace the imperfection.
That's my thing.
There's a story about the Japanese potter. He makes pots. And he spends his whole life perfecting how to make pots. And he makes them from clay. And the clay, when he designs the pot, the clay dries in 1 minute. So he makes the pot, and the pot is perfect. Then he gets a very large stick, and he hits the pot with the stick. And he has less than 1 minute to try and fix the pot. He is deliberately breaking into the imperfection, embracing the imperfection, making it human. Beautiful. The third thing, ladies and gentlemen, is, of course,
Impermanent.
we make it impermanent. So, components, we design them in a way that they are incomplete, so we start connecting them. The connections then are designed in a way that are imperfect, so there's a greater context that is connected. The context then is designed in a way that is impermanent, so we start the process again. Ultimately, I believe that when we do this, what will emerge is a sweet spot and is a fire that will burn brightly. Thank you very much.